different things that are not normal in it for you guys to see. So this is the page one that we will get, and basically lays out under number 2, it's who the buyer is under the proposed insured and their proposed policy amount. Number 4, I blocked the name out, but that is the seller's name. And number 5, it shows that's the legal description in that one for the property. So on page 2, the second page. So this is where all the fun stuff is. Number 1, I'm not going to go through all of them because some of these are for the buyers and their title company and their requirements. So what I do and look for on here, number 5 is the deed. So that shows you who, like how they're going to be deeding out. So it's going to say from, hi, good morning, from Jane Doe, and if she's married, that's where it tells us if they're married, put their marital status in there along with their spouse. Otherwise, a single person, and then it spells out how the buyer's names are going to go into title there too. So that's important for us to look at. Number 6 is basically that's for the buy side, what the mortgage is going to say on the mortgage for the buyers that are going to sign. Number 7 is telling us record a satisfaction of the mortgage. So that is telling us there is at least one payoff that we will get from the seller. So if the seller comes back and says their home is paid off, they don't have any open mortgages, then we know that we need to reach out and contact and get a satisfaction to be able to record that at closing. Number 8 is just for our information. It's just documents that they sign at closing, affidavits from both the buyer title company and the seller title company. And then, well, no, I'm sorry. Number 8 is the judgments. So this is one that we look for. So if you have a common name, any name that's pretty common out there, it's going to pull if somebody has a judgment. And so what we do, this is stating that there was a judgment against somebody that has the same seller name. And so we just reach out to the seller and say, hey, there's a judgment showing up on title work that has your name. Is this you? Yes or no? If it's a no, which 9 times out of 10 it is, not them. So we just have them sign an affidavit of non-ID at closing stating they are not that person.
That's the importance of getting the middle name or middle initial. If it's Tim Johnson, Timothy Allen Johnson makes it a lot easier.
Right.
So when we're pulling records, you know, instead of 17 pages, we might pull 7 pages. So it makes it a lot easier to get that middle name.
Right. And then if it happens to be their judgment, we just ask them for if there was attorneys involved or any correspondence. We will reach out to whoever the judgment is with and get their final payoffs and things like that, and just add that because that needs to get paid at closing. Number 9 is the 9 and 10 and 11 talk about the assessments, levied assessments. So this is where we look back on the purchase agreements that you guys fill out, and under all the special assessments, mostly it's seller is paying at closing. All those, there's every once in a while, this is why it's important for us to look at this, because sometimes the buyer wants to assume all those assessments. So then we don't really have to do anything because they will eventually get levied on or added onto their taxes. But in this instance, the seller is paying. So we got to go in and make sure we're adding the 9190 onto their final numbers here to make sure they're paying for all the street sealing, the storm sewers, and there's various levied assessments that total $281.40 which appeared on the tax statement. So we have to go in and make sure that those are added on so that it's not missed, because otherwise the buyer will end up assuming that, but in the purchase agreement, it was agreed upon that the seller was paying those at closing. So that's one, yes.
Does that include association dues?
Association dues are different. It will tell us on the commitment. I don't think this one in particular was in an association, but it does say like there is an association attached to this house. They'll find that, give us the association name. But in our seller questionnaire that we do send out to the sellers, we do ask if you're part of an association, and gives you all the contact information. So the association dues are separate. And with that, they may, when we order the dues current letter and that comes back, there may be separate assessments on the association side of things that they may have to pay too. So those are two different things. But we do request that from the association and find that out. So then 12 and 13, that's the documents that are signed at closing with the buyer and the seller. 14 is the certificate of real estate value. That's the ECRV that we look for and ask for that information, their forwarding address, social security number for the county. 15 is verifying there's no unpaid water bills or anything. So we do ask for a final water bill a week or so before closing, just to get that information. And if there was an amount due, and then they give us, sometimes some cities give us an estimated final from up to the closing date. So then we collect what's currently due, and then we'll collect like an estimated final. So if from what they're going to use, and if there's any overages, the city reimburses the sellers that amount. 16 is just an Edina Realty title, something that they require on the certificate of no information. So that's just basically stating that they are a US citizen. 17, the completed well disclosure certificate. So if there's no well, we just mark that box on the deed that there's no well that we're aware of. Or if there's a well, we do a certificate search online to see if there's one already recorded. And if there isn't, then that charge goes on the buyer's side. They pay for that to record a new certificate, an updated one. And then 18 is just informational purposes only. And that's just letting you know, that's for lenders. It lets you know who the 24-month chain, like who owned it previously, any gap insurance now with COVID, everything is behind. The counties are short-staffed kind of, so it's taking longer to record the mortgages and deeds and stuff. So that's just buyer stuff. And then, let's see. Yep, Schedule B2. This is mainly for the owner's policy and the lender's policy. What we look at on this page is number 3, that goes over taxes. When they're due, it will tell us if half of it's paid already or not. And then they give you the base tax amount. The base tax amount is before all the assessments are added in. So we prorate off of that for prorations, but make sure if the seller's paying first or second half taxes, we'll know what to add in, because they'll pay the assessments or anything else that's in addition to that. And then the next few pages are just in there. We don't do anything with them. That's for lenders and things like that. So that's has nothing to do with us. And then this also, the City of St. Paul assessments, that gives us more information on those assessments that were in the commitment earlier, who to make the check out to and where to send, because sometimes they don't go to the county, they go to the city if they're not levied on the assessments yet. So it's just helpful for us, what they need, where they need to go and how much. But those are attached to the commitments when you get them too. Along with the city of St. Paul property taxes, this goes over the seal coating and the sweeping and lighting, and it just kind of breaks down all the recycling and solid waste are on. Almost every county has those as an assessment all the time. So we don't really prorate for those because everybody pays them. And then this is the ALTA statement. So this is the final ALTA statement that we got over from Edina Realty after we plugged in all of our numbers. So we go over this with the seller at closing. So it goes, we have the sale price of the property. And then in this instance, there was seller paid closing costs of $250. So that's a debit for the seller and a credit toward the buyer. The taxes were prorated. So that's the proration amount from the 30th to the 1st of the year that they get credited back because it was paid. I'm not sure what that 0.5% Edina Realty added that in there. I'm not quite sure what that 1 penny was for. And then that's not normally there. Then it goes down our closing fees, doc prep fee, there's a payoff processing fee. So if there's a payoff, they get paid or charged a processing fee. Then you got the commissions to the agents going down, the conservation fee to the counties, the state deed tax to the county, that's all standard stuff. They have the record satisfaction on there, $46 paid outside of closing. That is because some lenders, or most of the lenders, the bigger lenders, will add the recording fee in, so they'll file the satisfaction on their own after the mortgage is paid off. The smaller banks don't do that, so then we charge that to the seller, and then we have them send us the satisfaction, and then we send that in to get recorded. And then you got the payoff of the house, and then under miscellaneous, you got the property taxes. So the second half in this instance was being charged. We are paying the second half at closing. And then there's the utilities to the city of St. Paul are there. And then that's where the levied assessments are added on. So we just kind of spell it out, each different line item, so they know what they're paying and how much. There was a rate on invoice that was added on that was paid outside. And then there was a credit for a broker admin fee for. So with the debits and credits, then it says due to the seller. So that's what the seller got back in that instance. So that is the ALTA commitment. Is there any questions?
Did you go over that one that Lynn?
No, I haven't gone over that yet. I'll go over that next.
Okay.
If there isn't any questions.
Is there anything in the chat? Jordan, was there anything in the chat?
No.
Okay.
All right. And then we were asked to go over one more thing.
Yeah, so Lynn Franzen sent in this morning. Please cover the earnest money. Please cover when the earnest money is greater than the listing side commission. Carrie needs a few days heads up, and she has a form for this.
Okay. So that is just, I think what she's talking about there is, okay, say the earnest money was $5,000 they put down. That gets transferred from the broker from the buyer's side to the listing agent side. And then with commissions, depending on how the commissions is, say, for instance, most, whatever commission is, the listing agent's going to get $11,000. Well, with that, $5,000 gets, since you already have that on your earnest money, your broker already has it. So that $5,000 will get taken out of that $11,000. So the check that you get at closing will be less than $5,000. Now, if the instance that you weren't, the commission was $4,000 and the earnest money was $5,000, then we need to ask to get that earnest money check. We need it either in a check form, or if you can wire it over to the other title company, but we need to get that receipted in from the buyer's title company. And then you'll get your check, your commission check for $4,000, since it was, the earnest money was more than what your commission is going to be. So that's how that kind of works. Does that make sense?
So do you, my question is, does the agent have to call you to tell you that, hey, it's more or less?
No, that's our job to do that. We will look at it and say, okay, the earnest money is more. So then we'll reach out to you as an agent to say, hey, we need to get that earnest money over to the other title company. So we'll work with you to get that figured out.
Is that closing day, or you give like?
Well, with sellers and we're pre-signing, we'll get that ahead of time when we're pre-signing, so we can either overnight it or send it over. We'll work on the logistics of getting it over to the other title company.
I'm asking because it happened to me.
Oh, okay.
The title company that I was using, the same deal closing, was asking for the difference, and actually it was a mistake on their part anyway. We didn't have to send them anything.
Right.
Because they had to actually give some money to Keller Williams.
Right.
But they made a mistake, and so we didn't close. We have to postpone closing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, so that's the reason I'm asking.
That's something, yeah, that's something that we should be noticing as we're getting everything together. Like for us, we always put in the earnest money. So then when we put in our numbers, the earnest money is usually, this is what tells us if we need to collect a check or not, is in our system, we put in the earnest money held by a listing broker. And then if it comes up with, we have it like $9,999 or something crazy like that, then you know that the earnest money is more than what they're getting back in commission. So that triggers us to say, oh, we need to collect that earnest money check. So we'll reach out, as a buy side, we'll reach out to the seller's closer and say, hey, we need to get that earnest money. Let us know when we're going to get it and how we're going to get it, you know, type thing.
I was a little disappointed in my title company because, you know, I was the one representing the seller.
Right.
And the buyer one called and said, hey, we need to do that. And it wasn't even that. And we have to postpone closing because of that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to, you know, notice that up front, and we make a note in the file, like collect earnest money, and we'll email you as soon as we, you know, get that to say, hey, we're going to need this by closing, you know, so.
So probably a good idea to communicate that right when you
Right.
accepted a purchase agreement, and send it over the title.
Yeah.
Make sure you put that in the note, so they definitely look for it, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
now I know to kind of push. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yep.
I didn't know till it happened. I'm like, what? They are closing.
Right.
I haven't had that happen since I would remember what you guys said.
Right.
Well, come on down and see us. We'll take care of you. Yeah.
I think I have a listing coming up too, and I'm not gonna let them do it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm totally done with them. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
I'm totally
that
done.
happened to me quite a few years back. I was like, how did you not know this?
How
Right.
did you? They are
Right.
closing.
Yeah, it was 3 days that it took to get.
My sellers are
Actually,
so
it's 10
crazy.
days.
It's like, what? Asking me to send in documents of they are closing, even aside that.
Well,
What? I mean, but anyway.
Yeah,
Learn.
that's sad. What is that sheet?
That is the earnest money request form. So that's the form that they need to fill out to get that earnest money.
Okay,
I'm actually looking for title.
Or maybe that's,
is that
she's
what,
good.
Jordan, is that what, or
Okay.
Carrie has to fill out?
Yeah.
do you guys fill this out, or is this something that we need to fill that out?
that's
Sorry, I don't have a mic on my computer.
We have to fill that out.
Yeah, so you have to fill it out as an agent and then send it over to Carrie if you know that you are gonna need it back, because often it's like last minute, you know, where the title company might not know right away. So if you know, just fill it out, email it to Carrie so that she has like plenty of time to get it done. Because we can't do wire transfers.
Okay,
For the
so
most
it's a
part.
check.
Yeah, so it's
Yep.
always gotta be a physical check, so,
Okay, thank you.
of course.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
So I do have a question, now the other side of this.
Yeah,
So what if, let's say you have, in my case, I had, my buyer, I'm representing the seller. My buyer is from out of state, right?
Mhm.
And I think they do things a little different. Title company do things a little different. So what do you do, like, if you would have to get some information and, you know, the other one says, you know what, we don't do that in our state. We do things a little different. How do you communicate? Because this was all part of the thing. They do things a little different. Minnesota do things a little different.
Yep.
And so they are not communicating and.
Right, and we just have to explain to them in Minnesota, this is what's required, you know, I know
even Wisconsin and Minnesota, absolutely, they're different.
Wisconsin and Minnesota are
They're
different, and,
Yep,
you know, we deal with a lot of lenders in California too, and so they throw in things that it's like, well, we don't need that here in Minnesota, you know, and so it's just teaching them what we require here or just communicating with them. This is what we require. I need this information or else we won't be able to close, you know. I mean, there's nothing much we can do about it. So we work on it and get that information.
It's just said and done.
Yeah.
You get to know that last.
so where is it closing? Here in Minnesota or?
Well, it was a pre-signed, pre-closing thing, so
Mhm.
I guess I got to know the last minute, no communication whatsoever. We send the title company emails, it's like, okay, I'm gonna
Right.
call you in an hour, we find out.
Nothing, yeah.
We call them, oh, she's in a closing, and, you know.
I'm working on I have a file right now. It's a purchase and it's an investment property and the investor lives in California.
Yeah, that's kind
And-
of like investment. They
yeah.
lives in a different
And
house.
so the lender is sending the buyer all of the lender documents, email, and they're gonna sign, you know, so that's where I need to communicate with the lender. I need to, because I just got these emails and it's like, well, we still need to get this lender package back to us. We need it for our file. We need to still record that mortgage and things like that. So you can't just send it directly to the buyer and have the buyer send it directly back to you because we need this information as well. So you need to send me the lender package. I will send it out to the buyer and then so the buyer sends it back to me. So that's one.
It's all communication.
Yeah,
She's very good at communicating.
That's what I'm looking for, because
Yeah.
I am just done with no communication, you know what I mean?
right.
And so Erin is her processor, but she also is a processor. So she does both sides. So if Erin's gone or something, she can do both sides. So it's very nice. She
Yep.
doesn't skip a beat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what's going on with all the files.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So it's nice that she can do both. She understands both parts of it. Yep.
Well, I'm just giving you good reference, so.
Well, yeah, Peter.
You trust me though?
Well, there is that. There is that. Can you trust Peter? We don't know yet.
Of course.
Does anybody else have any other questions? If you want a printed copy of this ALTA, I have some I can leave in the office, otherwise.
And every title company, their ALTAs look different. So this is an Edina Realty Title One. Our ALTAs look different. I think our Minnesota title ALTAs are easier to read and figure out because we have things more in, like the taxes, I think, are in the beginning part of the ALTA, not toward the end. But that's what I gave you this example just because it's on, if it's a seller side, it is going to come from the other title company. So, and then this one had judgment in there and assessments and stuff. Most of them don't have, you know, I'll skim through it and be like, this will be an easy one, you know, we just have to know, we got to collect how many mortgages or, you know, so it tells us that. So, yeah, but like I said, if you guys have any questions on any ALTAs, I'm always here to answer those questions too. at any time.
So it's very important that when this is sent out, that we review it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, yeah, I mean, because if there's a judgment, you know, you could help and say, hey, this isn't them. Or, I mean, if you know your sellers well enough, you know, to know, I mean, we'll still reach out to them and ask, but.
So you really want this sent out to you prior to it being sent out to your clients?
Yeah, usually.
You want this, you want to review it before we send it to
There's
your
no
clients?
surprise.
Yeah,
Right,
nobody likes surprises. Yeah,
and we can do that. We can
What
send.
you've been doing.
yeah.
And then if it's about purchase side, our exam department sends out those emails with the ALTA and everything in there, so. And your buyers get them, and sometimes the buyers are like, what am I supposed to do with this? Well, if there's nothing, like, they don't understand anything, it's more for us, but, you know, but we send it out to them too. So they have that information. Other than that,
Yeah,
Question,
yes.
what are some good objection handlers you use in terms of when people go, whoa, 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 closing costs? Because it seems like a lot of buyers right now get shocked about closing costs, even though it's discussed and on a net sheet. So what are like some common answers you say to go over why the closing costs are X or Y? Or you just say that is what it is, or do you kind of?
yeah, I mean,
Well, 'cause
I mean, I know
understand
some
it is
people,
what it is, yeah.
like, some title companies are more closing
Mhm.
costs, some title companies are less in closing costs, and I always say, you kind of get what you pay for. If you're gonna go on the lesser side,
Mhm.
they may not do a very good title search, or, you know, you might not get all this information done correctly. I don't think Minnesota Title is on,
We're right in the middle.
yeah,
Yeah, we're not on the high end, we're not on the low end.
Regardless of company you're using, I
Right.
know like a lot of buyers, especially in this market right now, are like, holy cow, I didn't realize it costs as much to sell a home or buy a home.
Right.
What if, like, do you go through your value proposition kind of? Is that how you would respond to
Well, I only hear from agents. I don't ever get to the
You
client.
never get it from the client.
Right, yep, no. So they kind of get it from the client.
Yeah.
I don't. And by the time they get to the closing table, they don't really care. They just want to close.
Gotcha.
So we don't ever hear it from the client side.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hear it from the realtors. And then when I talk to the realtors, I just say, you know what? You're buying a good service. You want service, you want communication, you want, you know, trust, you want honesty, you want communication.
Totally.
So that's what I work around and how we're different, you know? So, but yeah, we don't hear it from the clients at all.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I would tell them is, well, I mean, like I tell all the agents, who you partner with in business matters.
Mhm.
So,
Totally.
yeah. But
What do you think is a good estimate of what they'll bring to the closing? The amount of money.
so that depends on what kind of loan they're getting, FHA, conventional, VA. Conventional, it just all depends how much money they want to put down, and then versus their loan amount. That stuff, the number side of things with buys is the lender part of it. We don't really deal with, I mean, we get the numbers from the lender and enter it in, but we don't, because it depends how much, you know, who their lender is and how much they charge for all their fees and things like that. So that, I've seen people bring no money to closing, and I've seen people bring $150,000 to closing. It just all depends the price of the house and the loan amount and things like that. So,
You're going over like preparation fee and like, let's just say it was any title company, not just Minnesota Title. And it's a conventional loan, and like with closing costs, prorated taxes, prorated HOA, is it like 3% generally, 3.5%, you say, or?
and that all depends again with the HOA. I mean, it just depends how much their association fees are, you
Right.
know, and they can differ in what that includes in with their association, if it includes water and everything else, garbage, then we don't have to worry about getting a water bill. But yeah, you know, it could be roughly 3%. Our seller closing fees are flat standard, and then it's the buyer side is, you know, we do have the flat standard fees, but it's the owner's policy and the lender's policy that vary because of the price of the house, things like that. So, yeah. So. Any other questions?
What is your quickest turnaround you've had to do for title work from accepted purchase agreement to close there?
If it's a cash deal, we could probably do it in like, once we get title work and nothing crazy is showing up on there, we can close within a week.
I think we just did one, like a 5-day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Especially in this market.
we just did a
Right.
5-day here for someone. I mean, we try to push one if we have to.
Right.
We'll push one. We have a guaranteed 48 on a refi. We can do that, but
But at least 2 weeks you could do with cash, right?
with cash, yeah,
2 weeks. okay.
yeah. If nothing crazy shows up, yeah, I mean, I have a cash one the one that wants to close next week, and I just got it last week. And then I get it and it's like, oh, there's, you know, it's a personal representative. That's because, so now we have to get some documents from the county, but we'll just rush those and we'll get it close, you know, when they want, so. Cash deals are, and if they work with a lender, then it's up to the lender, how fast they can get it turned around on their end, so.
yeah. Anything else? Pretty quiet on the Zoom. Any questions off the Zoom?
I don't, but this was great.
Well, thanks for joining
Yeah,
in.
thank you.
No, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
And if you have any questions, you're always more than welcome to email me or reach out. You know, I'm always in the office as much as I can be. So, you know, stop in and ask questions.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Kristen,
You
yeah,
have a card?
not on me, but yeah,
Yeah,
right
come
next
by the
door.
office. Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kristen.
yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We got there. Thanks.
thanks.
All right. Peter, nice meeting you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Grab a bagel to go.
I'm good.